This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's episode of the Motor City Sports Rant is brought to you by Score. Score is an interactive game that lets users win deals at bars and restaurants based on what's going on in live sporting events. Find new places to watch the game and save money on your bill at the same time by taking advantage of Score's unique interactive specials that give you an additional stake in the action. A Score special can be anything a location wants it to be, from 10% off an item if a team scores a touchdown to a free round of drinks if the quarterback throws for 400 yards. Any stat can be turned into a game. Pick the deals you want to win, watch the games you want to watch, and score deals in real time. The app will update when your teams or players record a relevant stat. When the conditions of your deals are met, coupons are sent to your device to show to your server or bartender. It's that easy. Score is coming to the App Store and Google Play this August. For more information, check them out on the web at score-app.io and follow them on Twitter and Instagram at ScoreDeals. Score. Watch games. Score deals.
Detroit is the greatest!
Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
There McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Tick-tock, you don't stop. A tick-tocker, you won't stop. It's the DOC and the King on the Motor City Sports Rant. I apologize for that. I will leave the emceeing to the professionals. But nonetheless, it is the Motor City Sports Rant on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Like I just said, I'm Jarvie the King. With me as always, John, the Doc, Macaroon.
Like you said, leave it to the professionals. Let me hit you with this. Easily I approach the microphone because I ain't no joke. Tell your mama to get off of my beep. You like that? A little bit of easy to start the podcast.
You stole that from somebody. I'm trying to, do my own thing here, John.
No, you said leave it to the professionals, so if you're looking for a professional
You're
hip-hop
not a
artist...
professional MC, John.
What up, Jason, man? Great to check in with you. Always look forward to recording a podcast. How was your weekend, my friend?
I came to the realization this morning that I'm stuck in this loop where I feel like time is alternately speeding up and slowing down, and it speeds up at all the times that I want that I don't want it to, but it's growing ever slower when I want it to just be over, and it sucks. I want just time to go back to normal. It's messing with my brain.
What you're saying is when you have time off and you're relaxing, it seems like the day just goes by like that. And then when you're at work or trying to do something maybe you're not as interested in, it seems like every single minute is like tick.
Yes,
tock.
This past weekend we moved my sister-in-law and her husband and child into their new house. So that was all Saturday, and then Sunday, the time that I had off, it went by really quick, and then I worked at night on Sunday. And it took forever. But nonetheless, I'm back here again and get a little bit of a respite from the monotony.
No doubt about it. We'll have some fun. Look, I always look forward to recording with you. Lots of things to talk about. I was telling you before we started, I was like, I still don't understand why people call this the dead period. I mean, there's so much news in the NBA. Players are like, I don't want to play with you anymore. There's a major superstar that holds all the cards with his organization. We'll talk about that. The Detroit Lions training camp is starting this week, and a major publication came out and dropped some major news because our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast has just blown up because of their prediction, and we'll get to it rather quickly. I mean, we'll talk about the Lions and what your expectations are now this training camp and what some national publications think about them is really surprising. But I just want to start off with, like everybody that watched the British Open, I was amazed at the level of proficiency that Jordan Spieth has at the fine age of, I think, 23 years old.
Young Buck's getting it done.
Unbelievable to have a situation where you blow a lead and you come back with birdie, eagle, birdie after playing a really bad hole. you look at Jordan Spieth winning the British Open and you say, wow, what a talent. And so inevitably, whenever you talk about success in golf, just due to the stature of a guy like Tiger Woods, you start looking at it and you go, wow, how many majors is Jordan Spieth on track to win? Because obviously we all thought, and I myself included, thought that Tiger Woods would break Jack Nicklaus's record. But obviously, Tiger Woods had some addiction issues, addiction to sex, and then his body broke down. So naturally,
I think you can also throw in addicted to pain pills.
And addicted to other type things. And people have always looked at and are starting to explore, why is it that Tiger Woods has fallen off? Hasn't won a major in several years now. He's in his early 40s. The prime years of winning majors are behind Tiger Woods, whereas, we all thought that he could definitely hit Jack Nicklaus's mark. Right now, no. You think maybe if he puts it together for a couple, tournaments, he might get one additional major in his career. I made a comment on our Twitter page, and I said, if Jordan Spieth can avoid distractions and can have a great career, injury-free, or can avoid the allure of women, then he can go on and win a bunch of other majors. And I thought that was like, okay, just a simple, quick tweet that people would accept. I got a lot of interesting feedback, a lot of pushback saying that Tiger Woods did not fall off because of his exploits with women and things like that. That the reason why Tiger Woods has fallen off is the fact that he had a violent swing, his body broke down, and that's why he's had several surgeries and things like that. So I just want to explain myself and explain a little bit what I was thinking. Tiger Woods was on pace to have a legendary career. And then that Thanksgiving Eve, Tiger Woods gets into that accident late at night, and people are like, whoa, what happened? People were wondering, and people started to explore the nature of his relationship with his wife. And obviously what had happened was he got into an argument with his wife. I think things started to get revealed regarding the fact that he was cheating on his wife, and he was calling a bunch of escorts and calling professionals and hanging out with people that he shouldn't have been hanging out with, and it came out. So people started to pick apart and say, whoa, ever since, and he came out and was contrite and said, I have a sex addiction, I need help, I need to get my life back in order. That combined with a bunch of injuries made it so that Tiger Woods, especially with the evolvement of some great young talent, Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, you got a lot of, Zach Johnson, you got a lot of young players that are coming up, and then that's just the American side. A lot of great European athletes as well. And so people then started to compare Tiger Woods to Derek Jeter and said, look, Tiger didn't fall apart because of women. Look at Derek Jeter. He was able to have a great career, date a bunch of women, and that didn't affect him at all. And I say that's two different things, because the situation with Tiger Woods, and part of the reason why I think he fell apart, was he was living two lives. And there was such pressure to be the corporate Tiger Woods that everybody loved, that was trying to, sell a bunch of merchandise, that was appealing to the corporate world. He had so many endorsements. At the same time, he was a golfer, a professional, but off the course, he was leading a double life. He was, having sex outside of marriage. He was getting into a bunch of nefarious type activities. And you look at it and you go, the pressure of that finally caught up to him when he got caught. So that's what brought him down. Yes, of course, injuries are a part of it. It's not 100%. The only thing that brought him down was his off-the-course activities. But a big part of it was, I believe, became mental. Whereas when it was easy for him, he was working hard, life was in order, everything was smooth sailing. Once that all started to come out, people viewed him differently. Then he took time away from golf. His focus, his laser focus that he would have put to the course and practicing was no longer there. And then, of course, yes, his body fell apart. If that did not come out regarding Tiger Woods, I really believe that he would have a couple more majors. And that's all I said.
I kind of agree with you, but I also see, I think a lot of it is physical and mental for him. And part of that is that he got caught. And he had to change his entire lifestyle, essentially. So he had to deal with doing all that. And I do agree that the guy, the way he played golf, he just played at a different level. And you've seen it in other sports, like with Joel Zumaya in baseball. The guy just threw harder than everybody, and his arm couldn't take it. And I think that's kind of what happened with Tiger. That's one of the reasons. He really hasn't surrounded himself with the coaches and the people who tell him, hey, you really need to change your game if you ever want to try and make some sort of a comeback here. Because you look back at the timeline of stuff, and 2009 is when he had a pretty solid season, 2009, but then around Thanksgiving is when the whole crashing his Escalade incident happens. He kind of does nothing for the next couple of years. 2012, 2013 starts to make a comeback, does get some victories, but then he's just continuously hampered by different injuries. I don't think you can downplay back injuries. I think back injuries, they ruin tons of players' careers in multiple sports. So if that isn't right, he can't play up to the level, and he's also not adjusting his game to where he should be playing, then that then leads into the mental aspect.
Wouldn't you argue, though, that part of the reason, part of his great success was by the time other golfers got to the course to play him, let's say third round, fourth round of a major, okay? There was a stretch there whenever he had a lead, other golfers would not catch up to him. There was a stretch that if he led after 36 holes, lock it down, he was going to win the tournament.
I think earlier on in his career, maybe, but I think towards leading up to the whole car crash, I think he was starting to be a little bit more human. And I think we would have still assumed that he would have kept winning majors had he not had those injuries. I really think those are more to do with his downslide over the past 8 years.
So you're saying that his injuries played much more of a factor than his escapades and his off the course issues.
I do, but then I don't compare him to Derek Jeter at all. I think those are two very different situations. It's two very different sports. Golf is a singular sport. You're competing against everyone else. Derek Jeter and the New York Yankees, you have an entire team around you. You can be bad for 3/4 of the game and still have an all-time batting record.
And I can understand those that responded that way, what they were thinking. They were thinking that I said that anybody that potentially is a womanizer was going to fall apart. Okay, no, I didn't say that. What I said was if Jordan Spieth if he can avoid the allure of problematic relationships.
Yes, the mental, you can't downplay mental aspect in any sport. And I don't think Derek Jeter had a tough time sleeping at night ever.
Exactly.
Because, he was never married. And he moved on. He's notorious for moving on from lady to lady to lady.
And while he wasn't really open about it, he obviously would keep his privacy. He definitely respected that. It wasn't a secret that he was a womanizer. It wasn't a secret because of the fact that he'd have a girlfriend at all times, and he would have a handful of them. He had at least, I think, half a dozen throughout the course of his illustrious career with the Yankees. And nobody blames him because I don't recall if there was or wasn't any cheating scandals. It was just a series of relationships that ended. He'd always end up with a younger, beautiful woman, and most people respected that because it's Derek Jeter. Everybody would do that. But what Tiger Woods did was got married, had children, had a family. How are you going to do that? Try to be a golfer and then, start entertaining the notion of wanting to sleep with porn stars and strippers and, professional ladies of the night. So that whole thing I thought was a really... can tell you the grasp that addiction can have if he was not able to stop, even knowing the bad consequences. It ruined his career. That's what I thought started the process of ruining his career because his focus was no longer solely on golf. Once he became a family guy, once other things happened, you got to remember, dude, this guy was winning tournaments as a teenager, started to get and be competitive in majors as a young teenager turning pro. So you look at it and you go, okay, by the time you're 30 years old, 12 years of a grind and keeping doing the same things over and over, you get bored. And so what happens is you have the entire world at your fingertips. You have the opportunity to date and do whatever you want. His biggest mistake was if he wasn't truly ready to get married, he should have stayed single, and that's it.
I'll admit that it started the process of him going down the downturn, but I would also argue that if he didn't have any of these injury issues, I think we'd see Tiger on the course dominating right now. I think that's a fact. He would have gotten over it really quick, and he'd be back winning majors.
It's interesting to really explore the downfall of an American icon, Tiger Woods. But real quickly before we start talking about the Tigers and a lot of rumors regarding potential trades and a look at the rebuild of the Detroit Tigers, do you think Jordan Spieth's on the path of getting to the level of a Tiger Woods where he transcends golf? I think that there's still a lot of competition for him. I don't think yet he draws a lot of viewers. He's definitely very popular, but Tiger Woods was something totally different where he brought in people that weren't fans of golf. I don't see that happening, but I definitely tune in to see when Jordan Spieth is winning.
He's a great golfer, but he looks like a golfer. Tiger Woods, when he came on the scene, you didn't, and let's just call a spade a spade, you didn't really see a black guy on the PGA Tour being as successful as he was. And it did. He was young, and he had just this bravado about him that, he knew that he could go out there and dominate. So he brought something to that sport that nobody else did at that time. I think nowadays, with the athletes that are coming out and with the science behind making the golf clubs, I think it's a lot easier to kind of create golfers, really, if you want to look at just that sport, if not in every single sport. You're getting a higher level of athlete nowadays. So Jordan Spieth is going to have to win major after major after major if he's going to get to the level of where Tiger Woods was.
Should he, in North Carolina, win the PGA Championship this year, he's already won all four at the young age of 23, 24 years old. That's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, but he still has to do it more.
Yeah.
He just has to continue doing it. He can't let this be it. He has to continue doing it. Otherwise, he's just going to fade into the ethos of history.
So you look at it and you say, wow, unbelievable start to his career. Great recovery when he was challenged in the fourth round of the British Open. A great win for him, and we shall continue to watch and track his career and hope he avoids the pitfalls that others before him have fallen into. All right, Jason, I definitely want to talk to you about the Detroit Tigers because there's a lot of news and notes every single day being released. And what I get a sense of is there's high stakes negotiating going on right through the media.
Yeah, wasn't it like the day after we recorded the last show, JD Martinez got dealt?
Exactly. So you look at it and you go, wow. And now,
by the way, I also want to bring up quick side note. Having my second job at night, it's like a 5-hour block where I'm just disconnected from everything. And it sucks. Because when that happened, I went to work at 5, and then I get out at 10:30. I turn on the Tigers game. I'm like, okay, listening. And then I hear, oh, yeah, with JD gone now. I'm like, what?
Yes. Well, what you got to do to reconnect is definitely peek into @Detroit Podcast, the most interactive Twitter page that breaks news and talks about everything as it happens. And you could definitely, if you just push that button, you'll see. Because what I like to do is just retweet everybody that comments to us, and you can catch all the news really quickly by following along with our Twitter page @Detroit Podcast. Jason, okay?
So no more JD.
No more JD.
And you think
he got swindled?
It's all going. Oh yeah, he did. He got hurt.
Al Avila definitely got swindled by the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I don't think they got the haul that they possibly could have. How much better could it have been? Not that much, but still, I would have got more for JD Martinez than what the Tigers got. And so what's happening is every day you read the papers and you start following on Twitter, you see what these general managers are doing. What they're trying to do is starting to kind of sprinkle information out that, hey, the Tigers have to come down a little bit in their asking price. We want to start packaging players. That we got rumors now that the Brewers might be interested in Ian Kinsler and Justin Wilson. You got rumors potentially that JV could end up with the Yankees. You got rumors that JD could end up, with the Dodgers now that Clayton Kershaw's hurt. You got a lot of rumors, but what you're hearing is not a lot from the Tigers side. You're hearing a lot about what others are expecting in terms of, you hear that the Tigers kind of want these teams to take over a lot of our guys' salaries. So the Tigers, in essence, are going to get punished for giving these guys a bunch of bad deals. In that they don't want to give prospects back. The Cubs are like, we'll consider paying JV salary, but we're not going to give you a prospect. So now it's back in our court, and we're like, oh. So a lot of people are commenting like, look, if there's an opportunity to keep JV, then you do it. And I say, look, everybody, here's my philosophy as to what's going on and to realize how this is going. When, one, fact, you start to sell too late, this is what happens. Okay, you're not going to get the haul you would have gotten 2 years ago had you traded Justin Verlander. Okay, or if Al Avila hadn't opened his mouth and exposed his cards on the table, you could have got this last offseason after JV had a Cy Young year. So what's happening now is the Detroit Tigers are not going to get the proper value, no matter what, for these guys. Everyone's just going to wait it out because everybody knows that the Detroit Tigers are trying to come down from a $200 million payroll in the neighborhood, come down in total team salary in the neighborhood of $140 million to $160 million, whatever you read and learn about regarding what the number is going to be. So the issue is people are like, well, if we can't get proper value, then you need to keep JV. I say this, okay? You got to remember, you can't in your mind, if you're listening to this, think of it this way. You can't look at it and say, we are already into year 2 or 3 of a rebuild. Okay, you are at step 1, less than step 1. You're at the forefront of a rebuild. Okay, this isn't 4 or 5 years from now. No. What's happening is you're deconstructing your team. And yes, it would be great to kick it off with trading a Verlander, trading a Justin Wilson, trading the likes of an Ian Kinsler, but they're not going to get you the haul that you think that you deserve. Okay, so the way I want to describe it to you is really simple. The Tigers, if they can get relief, if anybody just says, look, we'll take JV and we'll give you anybody, then you take the deal. Okay, and here's why. No, not you're getting swindled. No, that you're going to suck for a long time. The reason is this, okay? Your first goal number 1, is not to replenish the talent. No, that is the second goal. The first goal in terms of repairing this for the Tigers is getting into a comfortable fiscal range where you can sustain it and stop losing money. That's step 1. Okay, if that means you have to kind of force Upton to opt out, if you have to add in a Zimmerman to other trades, if you have to buy out anybody that you got to buy out, the first step is you got to get fiscally responsible and make sure you put a ball club that you can at least start to afford and not have the ball club lose money. Because there's reports the Tigers lost $34 million last year. Okay, so when your ball club loses money, I don't care who you are, I don't begrudge them for thinking about cutting back on the spending to get back to being fiscally responsible. Once you have that, now you start the process of saying, okay, now we know how much we're going to spend. These are the players we need to target, younger, more affordable athletes that we can control for longer periods of time that can be productive. The days of having 5 and 6 Hall of Famers making $20 million are over. Bye-bye. They're done. So you have to realize the Tigers have to get fiscally responsible first. It's not that difficult. Okay, so if a team comes like the Cubs and says, we're going to pay JV, we might not give you, a top 5 prospect. We got to give you this guy. You take it. Okay, because now you got $28 million next year off of the books. Okay, that's saved. They're not going to spend it. Okay, they're not going to take that same $28 million and buy 4 more players. No, they're just going to get into that salary range. Now, the reason why it's a problem if you keep JV and you keep Miguel Cabrera and you keep all these guys making a ton of money, and it hits now 3 to 4 years later, and you got a plethora of young talent. You're drafting, you're playing a bunch of young guys. Let's say a younger talent comes along that might put you over the edge. Okay, the formula's there. We all now can see it. KC did it with their young talent. Houston's doing it this year with their young talent. The Cubs evolved and got to the World Series and won it with their young talent. So what they did was they added at the trade deadline the final piece. That's the road the Tigers got to get to, where you got a payroll of 140, 130, 150, whatever it is. You compete. You're close, 2-3 games back. You might be leading the division, and you just need that last piece or last couple pieces. Then you add on guys that you can keep and pay a little bit more.
But like you said, we are at the beginning of this
the very beginning, which is...
And we're probably realistically 5 years away from being at that level where you can just add one piece to the trade deadline to put you over the top.
I think people are starting to realize this is going to be a long-term hurt. But I think people are debating and wondering, the Major League Baseball doesn't have a salary cap, so why would you just give away Justin Verlander? And I say, look, the reason is when you explore it twofold. Right now, my opinion from what I see, Justin Verlander, when you look at walk rates and strikeout rates and things like that, swing rates, all these numbers that people put in front of me, I'm not looking at it so intently. What I do is just ask Vito to give me the numbers and explain it to me, and he'll tell me. What it senses to me, and what I said just by the eye test, is Justin Verlander is about a 500 pitcher for the Tigers right now, without really knowing all the advanced numbers. Okay, is that a guy you want to keep around here for $28 million? I know that people respect him and they think you can get a lot for him. I don't think so. I think the market's being dictated to Al Avila, and that's his fault. But if you can get somebody to take Justin Verlander, you do the deal. Period.
So let me throw this out there, because I am all on board of rebuilding. And I think we're both in agreement that they started way too late. And even just
I recorded it 2 years ago. The window's shut, slam it shut, sell.
Just like you've seen this season, you've already seen a team like the Chicago White Sox who have already capitalized. They realized it, and they capitalized at the height.
Yes.
They've turned some of their top players into top prospects. I just went through the top 100 prospects for MLB, and they have 9 in the top 100 right now. And I think the Tigers have 1 in Matt Manning. We're going to be bad for a while. And tell me what you think about this. What if we don't sell this year? If we're gonna
if we do nothing, if this is it, if the move of JD Martinez is it.
So hear me out. We don't move anything this year because we're still going to be bad. Next year,
I gotta go.
Hell no, I can't listen to that. I can't even listen to it.
You're not letting me explain.
What a dumbass.
If you're talking about just dumping Justin Verlander's salary just to get it off our books, what's it going to hurt having it on going into next year? So let's say we go into next year and we don't come out in the offseason and are like, hey, we're looking to shed salary like Al Avila. We actually have a GM who is a little bit more savvy and can make some deals and try to rebuild this team. So you go into next year, and on one hand, maybe guys like Miguel Cabrera, Justin Verlander have better years. You increase their value, and you can get a little bit more in return for them.
I can give you a perfect analogy.
And if they don't, you can still dump them.
Because he's a spot. And that's a spot twofold. Whether you want to look at salary or you look at, his contributions, he's a spot. Okay? And now that's a spot that a younger player doesn't get to come up and pitch for the Detroit Tigers, because Justin Verlander's making $28 million. He's got to be up there, and we're going to continue to see him.
But do we have the pitchers down there that are ready to actually come up and compete, who are potentially going to be?
But
starters?
In your mind, you have to remember that this is not the traditional rebuild where we're going to have veterans. I say you bring up Faedo, you bring up Manning, bring up Burrows, bring them up and let them learn at the major league level. And when you remove the traditional notion of, hey, let's just completely have a couple veterans that we like. Look, if you go in with a rotation of Boyd, Norris, Fulmer, Faedo, Manning, or Burrows, or maybe just add one other younger free agent or somebody that's up and coming or a middle-aged veteran for $8 million, then you go, okay, it's a rebuild. Okay, you can't think that a guy like Justin Verlander, I know he'll be productive. He'll give you outings. He'll give you stuff. But at the same time, there'll be outings where he goes out there and he's going to pitch 95 pitches in the 4th and 5th innings. So you look at it and you say, can you pay $28 million for 14 wins? You can't do that. It's not realistic. So if somebody,
but can you give him till what, June, July next year? If he's going to be good and it increases his value, then you can actually get more. Otherwise, then just dump him because you're still going to be bad.
Yeah, see, I there is a notion to maybe holding on to him and seeing if you can get rid of him next year. But then,
I think the window is closed this year. You're not going to get anything.
Here's what's happening, and you're not seeing it. Alex Avila now, like Vito said in several of his podcasts that air every Wednesday on our network, Alex Avila, if you let him play 162 games, is going to come down to 275, 270. He's not going to be a 325 hitter.
Yeah, they should have traded him already.
So now Justin Verlander, a year down the road, potentially now his fastball, let's say, comes down to 92 or 93, and he continues to not get out of innings and not be able to control his pitch count. What if his walk rate goes up through the roof again?
But if now you're just going to dump him anyways, you're talking about just dumping him outright just to get rid of the salary. Mm-hmm. If you're going to do that anyways, why not gamble that maybe he improves a little bit? Because we saw just last year, he was a Cy Young candidate. Probably should have won.
All I can do is go by what I see. Pitchers in their 30s typically don't get better. Each year they slightly regress in certain areas. So
I'm not sure if it's a gamble, though.
I think it's a gamble.
You're playing with house money at that point then.
Okay, see, I disagree.
I mean, is it not house money? Because if he actually does good, you get more. And if he doesn't, then you're still going to get rid of him anyways.
Well, how do you get rid of him if he's not any good?
You were talking about just outright dumping him.
Right now he has some value. I mean, you can get you a player, but what people are thinking is that he's going to draw a number one prospect from someone's organization.
He's not going to get a number one prospect from anybody.
No, I think what he's going to get is around a number 5 or number 4 prospect in an organization, and that's not the arguing point. The arguing point is how much money of the $28 million salary that he makes the next 2 years are the Tigers going to eat. That's the number.
I just honestly don't see people. I don't see teams eating that much of his salary. We're gonna have to take on a lot of his salary, regardless.
Mm-hmm. And so when you look at it and you say, okay, this is where the Tigers are at. Are you upset that they're gonna lower the payroll? Are you upset that Al Avila has kind of exposed his hands and you feel like kind of other general managers are taking advantage of us?
I want to know what Vito thinks on this, because I think Vito might actually agree with me on this. This debate. I think he'd listen to my opinion and he'd say, Jarvie the King, that's the smartest thing I've heard all summer. Wait until next year, see if you can get more, and then dump them if they suck.
Okay. I'm fascinated. Yeah, definitely tune in Wednesday. You'll hear what Vito thinks, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. And it's one of those fascinating things to look at. And I can understand opposing sides of how to rebuild. This is just what I'm thinking as a way to go, is that the first step that you can do is if you can get fiscally responsible, if you can get close to how much you want to pay for your ball club, the sooner the better. Now we can start to plug in players that are going to fit and get younger talent. So if there's another way to do it by keeping, Victor, keeping Ian Kinsler, keeping these guys around and having them take up a chunk of the money that you allocate, if you can find that out and continue to have a competitive team, I look at it and I say, what we're watching isn't competitive, and if you want to start to make the changes, it's time to really open up and let anybody that can be traded be moved on.
Well, while I don't think the Tigers will probably listen to what I have to say, I will call out that Kinsler probably going to be gone. I think we're going to trade one pitcher to the Dodgers because, as we alluded to, Clayton Kershaw out 4 to 6 weeks. Even though the Dodgers are up by like 10.5 games, they need somebody to come in and at least help, and they're probably going to need another piece if they want to actually legitimately compete for a World Series. We're going to give them either Justin Verlander or Michael Fulmer. Guarantee that.
Okay, it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be a fun week. I'm fascinated to see if Ian Kinsler, Justin Wilson, many people are starting to say, okay, Al Avila, what are you going to get back? Because the ball is in your court. If you do not get the haul that we expect, his seat's going to get super hot, and many people are going to start to question even further, should he even keep his job? And right now, the way I'm looking at it, many people are, I think, accurate that he's getting played through the media. He's trying to kind of come back and say, look, we're not just giving the guys away, but at the same time, when it comes down to that wire, I really think that, in the game of cat and mouse, I feel like just maybe on a scale, he's 60-40 in the disadvantage, Al Avila, because everybody knows the Tigers are trying to get lower in their payroll. So I think he's under the gun a little bit, and he's negotiating from a point where the other GMs know that he can't just keep these guys and roll with the same crew. Some moves got to be made.
Well, we'll see what happens. August 1st, I told you. We'll see if my prediction goes true.
Yes, sir.
But we'll take a quick break, come back, talk some Leos. I'm so excited for football to be back.
And a national outlet has just dropped a bomb on the internet landscape, and people are responding and angrily, which I like too. But the national publication might have more validity than we may even think. Stay with us on the Motor City Sports Rant. Jason, I just want to tell you about our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I were first looking to upload and record our podcast, we needed a spot to host all of our recorded audio. And thank goodness we found Podomatic.com. It's our host site, which means any recorded audio that we did for this network, we've placed it in one spot, Podomatic.com. User-friendly, very great customer service, easy to generate links so that all our supporters can listen to our shows. If you're going to start a brand new podcast, trust all the great hosts here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network and use one great host site, and that's Podomatic.com.
Yeah. Sex game had her ass blowing me up. Sex game had her ass texting me up. Yeah.
808 Mafia.
I got the moves. I got the moves. Oh, I'm making moves. You gotta move. She made that back move. Damn. She made the titties move. Damn. I made the city move. Like, whoa. I made the city
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Gotta play some Big Sean.
Making
Detroit
moves,
zone.
Jason. You know that. You know that's right. Making $1 million moves here on the network as well. Big Sean, very popular, loves Detroit sports. You always see him around at Lions games, Tigers games. Great stuff there, sir.
Detroit zone. He reps his city. We rep him.
Yes, sir. All right. So the internet is a buzz.
Open invitation if he wants to come on the podcast ever.
Ooh, you want to try to book Big Sean?
Hey, if you can make it happen.
I'll try. Why not? Listen, the internet's going crazy. People are wondering, and now people are actually coming at me and saying, look, why would you even retweet such a disgusting article regarding, predictions from the USA Today regarding the NFL this year? I think a couple points of reference that people are noticing is that the USA Today has the Patriots going 16-0. They got the Lions finishing worse than the Bears. They got the Green Bay Packers going 12-4. And the big thing is, they got the Detroit Lions going 5-11. And so people are just up in arms when it was released on Monday. 2017 NFL projections from the USA Today, and it's a publication that I read quite a bit. And to see the Lions at 5-11, last in the division, below the Chicago Bears, they got the Packers at 12-4, Vikings 9-7, Bears 5-11, Lions 5-11. They got the New England Patriots 16-0. And so many people, once I posted that, are now getting mad at me for saying, look, why would you even give this any credit?
Do they have a write-up on the Lions? Do they give an explanation as to why 5-11? Because it's very low for a playoff team and a team that I would
Jason,
like to consider.
You can use your brain. We can figure it out. We can talk our way through it. You know why.
I mean, I know I can talk my way through it.
We all know why. Because
I can argue for 5-11.
Yeah.
I can also argue for them being 11-5. I mean, what did we did this thing already? Didn't we?
You have them 11-5. I got them 10-6.
Right.
So the reason is now you have a situation where Decker's hurt. There's a lot of question marks regarding some of the draft picks that Bob Quinn took this year in terms of the cornerback, in terms of who they got at linebacker. There still are question marks regarding, how's this defense going to respond after last season? What's Matthew Stafford going to do without a realistic running game? And how are they going to respond to a major injury to Taylor Decker? And they really do believe, and I think that part of the reason the prediction is this bad is that the Lions last year had a series and a lot of come from behind wins, and they think there's going to be a correction this year, and they're going to be in another series of great close games, but this time the NFL gods will turn around and will lose some of these games.
I don't know. I see our offense having a lot of the same pieces, and I don't see. I get that we're probably going to lose some of those games that when it came down to the fourth quarter drives. But I also think that we won't have those many games. I personally and honestly believe that they have improved. And if they can stay healthy, they can be a team that holds on to a lead at some point.
Yeah, so I tweeted out on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, USA Today Sports came out and said our annual prediction of how the NFL season will unfold, and they put it out. So you can follow along, and you can see what we're talking about here on our Twitter page.
I mean, no doubt. Any Lions fan could always argue that they're going to be 5-11 or they're going to be just the worst team in the NFL because everything can go wrong. We don't have a proven running game. Taylor Decker, you don't know what you're going to get from Greg Robinson or the other guys that they're going to try and fill in there. We still don't have a proven edge rusher. Armani Bryant, another guy who's going to be that depth on the other side of Ziggy Ansah, he's going to be suspended for a period of time. So you're relying on Kerry Hyder, you're relying on Jared Davis to come in and hopefully be a proven middle linebacker. And yes, I can talk all about the doubts about this team, but it isn't about the doubts. It's about the hope that you see in this team and the possibilities that are with this team.
So training camp is starting. The rookies reported on Monday for training camp. That means football is right around the corner. The vets will report on Saturday. It's time, baby. How excited are you? It's good stuff, right? I haven't been following it along as much, but I feel it. I feel it in the air that football is right around the corner, and I'm so ready to be done. Get the stink of the Tigers and the Pistons and the Red Wings. So we got to talk about this 2017 NFL projection from USA Today. So if you were to bet how much you make here from this podcast, how much you earn from us, on whether the Lions are going to win more than 5 games, 5 games or less, what would you push all your chips in and say? Would you say, looking at it now, that you see the schedule, you see the injuries, you see the fact that maybe Stafford might enter into the year grumpy that a long-term deal wasn't met? He shouldn't be, because he's going to get money no matter what. Do you think the Lions are going to come out in this year and put together a string of wins and take advantage of what many people are calling a softer schedule? I got him at 10 wins. You had him at 11, but that was before the Decker injury.
I would still put all the money that you pay me to come here, which isn't a ton, but hey, it's something. I put all that money on them winning over 5 games, and that's easy. I would make that bet in a heartbeat, because I think even if Matt Stafford is grumpy, he's going to come in grumpy and want to throw the ball all over the place. And if this truly would be his last season in a contract year, he's going to want to maximize himself. So he's going to come out and he's going to have the incentive to be the best that he can be. So I think you're going to get a motivated Matt Stafford. And just, I think that alone, you can almost say that we're going to win 8 games with that.
Yeah, see, I think
Matt Stafford alone is worth 8 games.
See, I agree. I feel like 5 is totally disrespectful, but it speaks to where...
Also, when you're talking about the Bears are absolutely horrible. Who's going to be the quarterback? Is it going to be the number 2 pick overall, Mitch Trubisky? Is it going to be, Mike Glennon, the guy that they paid a ton of money from Tampa Bay, who was a backup there? Who's their... Yeah, they have Jordan... what's his nuts? Jordan... I hate myself that I can't remember the new running back. But the guy that he had a breakout rookie year last year, he's pretty solid. But they don't have any wide receivers. They lost Alshon Jeffrey. They're going to be relying on Kevin White. And then you look at the Minnesota Vikings. Teddy Bridgewater is probably going to start the year on the PUP list. So now you're relying on Sam Bradford. And, Bradford was okay last season, but I think he's also one hit away from being out for the rest of the season, because he's proven that he can't finish a year. Matt Stafford has at least gone after those first 2 years. He's been a very durable quarterback. Sam Bradford, not a durable quarterback. Their wide receiver situation still up in the air. Yeah, they got Stephon Diggs. They got not much else. And then I think everyone is putting a lot of stock into Latavius Murray and Dalvin Cook being just this great running back tandem. And honestly, I wasn't high on Dalvin Cook in the draft. I think he was a second round running back, but people viewed him as high as the first round. I don't see that. I think it's gonna be a lot more of a mess than people are predicting. And the Lions are easily going to be at least second in the NFC North.
Yeah. See, I think that, if you listen to the history of our podcast and if you go to YouTube and subscribe, we're almost near 10,000 replays of our shows, which means that we put the stuff on YouTube like 2 or 3 weeks after as an archive. 10,000 people have just pushed and listened to shows that we've already aired. So it's really cool that people we have now a formal documented place where we've said these things. We've screamed and yelled and hollered about the Lions. And we've said, look, why are we perceived this way? Why don't we get any level of respect nationally? You have to accept it. You kind of have to look at it that when nationally people look at your organization, people look at the Lions and just start laughing. So I can understand that. I do think, though, from what I see with Bob Quinn and the situation where I see what the philosophy is, I do think it's more professional when you see what the philosophy is and how they're looking at if there's a player that's not producing, they're going to get cut and they're going to move forward. So at least so far, Bob Quinn doesn't look like a total boob doing the job. So far, so good. I like what Rod Wood's doing in terms of the formal stance of the arena and taking down the banners and making training camp a lot more fun and things like that. So far, this new regime I'm down with. Some of the moves that were made at the draft are a little bit safe. And whether or not you think that the Lions have passed over better talent for better personality guys, you can make that argument. So you look at it and you say to yourself, okay, I think the Lions are working to shed the national disaster that is their reputation. Going forward, now, finally, there's going to be 2 decisions that are made that are going to really affect the future in the next 10 years of this organization. How much money do you give Matthew Stafford? And how much playoff success do you get? Because look, year in, year out, you can sell everybody a bill of goods. You can put $500 million into Ford Field. If you don't put a winning product on the field, playoff wins. We only got one playoff win. So for those that are pushing back, I definitely can understand your frustration. Hell, I screamed and yelled and wondered why refs would screw the Lions game in, game out, why we can't win games, why we lost to the Dallas playoff game because of a decision that I've never, ever seen before. It's because nobody respects your organization nationally. So, and that's what me and Adam screamed and yelled about for the better part of 2 years, which is you got to change that. You know, that's why we would say Jim Caldwell, when something crappy happens, can't just sit there and be like, we'll address it with the league and be all calm. He's got to get out there and fight for the reputation of the Lions. Yeah, you can tell I'm getting riled up. I love talking football. This is great. I'm just excited, and I'm hoping that with this coming year, when we start, you and I breaking down football, it's going to be fun. It's going to be something where we can have the fun that we had last year. Last year was a lot of fun. Obviously, we are jaded Lions fans in that I'll tell you this, I'm pessimistic. Anytime something goes bad, I'm screaming, yelling, hollering more than any other organization, but it's only because I want them to win after watching them for damn near 30 years struggle. So when people ask me, man, you're so negative on the Lions and you're not this way with any other team, it's because other organizations have given me something. The Wings, Stanley Cups, the Tigers in the World Series, won it in '84, playoff success. The Pistons have won championships. Other organizations have given us something. The Lions, what they've done is year in, year out, gotten us to the point where we're all riled up. And then when it came time to pay it off, boom goes the dynamite and nothing was there. So I understand. I'm not mad. I'm not pissed. And the media, man, sports media is taking a massive, I mean, literally somebody's got to champion in the position of sports writers, because whenever something stupid gets posted, you know, people are messaging me now nonstop saying, this is why newspapers are down and that they put out this garbage and why is this is why that. I'm like, look, in the grand scheme of things, they're doing what they're supposed to do because we're talking about it.
He's just doing his job.
They're doing his job, and I can't do it to that level. If I wanted to put a realistic thought out there as to my projection right now, knowing where they're at, July 24th, recording this, I would put them at 7 wins, not 5-11. But will people talk about it? So either way, you got to kind of swing for the fences to get attention. So if you wanted to get attention.
This is also a guy who said that the Patriots are going to be 16-0.
Yes, you got to do it because people are talking about it nationwide. I might have even swung and done 4-12. I'm not that way. I'm real, and
yeah. I mean, I'm sure that,
and I'm a fan too, so I'm jaded.
If you talk to that guy and you said, "Hey, you have to put your entire year's salary on the Lions. Are they going to get over or under 5 wins?" I think he'd probably go over 5 wins because I just think it would be idiotic to bet on the Lions at this point to get 5 or less wins.
Oh, the way I look at it, and I explore how the Lions are shaken, it's really going to depend on the running game. If the running game can really help this team and get 100 yards a game, there should be no reason why with that schedule you should lose more than 6 games. You should be 10-6.
I'm not sure if I would just say the running game. I would just say the running backs in general. I think of Amir Abdullah and Theo Riddick, what they can do for this team.
Score some touchdowns.
Not just running, but also receiving. I think those guys, if they can stay healthy and be productive, then this offense is going to run much more efficiently. They'll run much more like the beginning of last year rather than the end of last year.
All right, going to the phone lines real quick. We got David in Washington Township definitely reacting to the news of the day regarding predictions that the Lions are going to be a 5-win football team. David, thanks for calling.
You know, I mean, we've been seeing this all off season. You know, NFL, whatever. I don't even know what every single sports news network, other than maybe a few, saying the Lions are not a playoff team. They were a fluke last year. That Stafford sucks, whatever. This team went 9-7 last year with a ton of injuries. Stafford was hurt last 5 games. Ansel was hurt most of the year. We didn't have Amir. Marvin Jones couldn't stay healthy. And then they go into free agency, completely healthy offensive line, add defensive depth, and then you get Jarrett Davis in the first round of the draft. And it's like, how can you even say? I could see maybe calling them a 9-7, 8-8 team, but 5-11, that's just ridiculous.
Did you feel a level of disrespect nationally that a publication would even print that the Lions could only win 5 looking at that schedule this year?
I wouldn't call it disrespect because they do have a tough schedule. But, I mean,
How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel seeing the disrespect that national publications and many, even fans of the Lions have for the Lions? How does it make you feel knowing that there are a lot of people that actually hate the Detroit Lions?
When I've been growing up, up until I was like 12 years old, I was going to every single Lions game. That was during like the majority of the time where, they were not good, from right around when Stafford got there. They just recently started getting good again. So, it's like I can understand why longtime fans just have hate towards them, because they're just used to them always losing. But it's like they're actually, you can't deny that Bob Quinn's doing a really good job building up the team, like where it really matters. Predictions really don't mean anything. It's what they do on the field that.
So you being a fan who's never in your lifetime seen them win a playoff game, what realistically would you put them at? They're not 5-11, and so where would you put them? Would you put them at least 9-7, or would you even go crazier, call them 10-6 or 11-5?
They can certainly go 11-5. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But realistically, I think that they're 9-7, 10-6, maybe snag the division, but likely like a wild card team, probably 9-7, 10-6, something like that.
David, thank you so much for dialing up the Detroit Sports Podcast. We hope you have a good day.
Hey, you too, man.
Oh, man, exciting times, man. I think the news will progress this week. Follow along, DetroitSportsPodcast.com, at Detroit Podcast on Twitter when the news breaks. If Stafford signs his deal, what goes on in training camp, we'll be all over it to cover it. Jerry Mallory's coming back with his Hindsight 20 podcast. He's all over it. He'll be actually at training camp, I believe, covering it, doing his thing over there at Pride of Detroit and for Detroit Sports Podcast Network. We got it all covered, baby. We'll get you some information and keep the strong opinions flowing here on the network, man. I always enjoy checking in with you, sir. Did you have a good time?
I had a good time. Real quick before we go, the little bit of NBA news.
Yes.
Kyrie Irving apparently came out and told the Cavs that he wanted to be traded. He's done being LeBron's little brother, and he wants to be a more prominent role on a team.
Step one, before we start talking about maybe where he ends up. Good idea or bad idea for him? Because he's already won a title. They're likely to have success if they play together. Obviously, there's good chemistry there, but after winning a title and after seeing how things might progress, is it Kyrie being smart knowing that LeBron might be leaving, or is it stupid because of the fact that really anywhere across the league, there will be no other scenario in which he's going to have the level of competition and strong support. Many people already have Cleveland in the finals next year.
I think there's two ways you can look at it, and you can look at it that there's going to be a mass exodus from Cleveland, and that Kyrie knows that LeBron's going to leave, and maybe even LeBron's like, hey, dude, I'm not going to be here next year, so if you can get out now, because there's going to be nothing next year. And then you can also look at it the way that apparently there's a narrative that this happened about 2 weeks ago that he came to the Cavs and said that he wanted a trade. And the rumor is that LeBron James, being a little upset about it, leaked the information to the press because apparently it got leaked that he wanted to be traded, and there was a little bit of sour grapes on LeBron James, which I don't get that narrative because it doesn't help the Cavs. Because if people know that they're going to be looking to trade Kyrie Irving, it just hurts the Cavs. But then on the other hand, does LeBron James really care? Maybe he's just trying to stick it to the Cavs more than ever. Maybe Kyrie went to Dane Gilbert and said, hey, I want to be traded. Then Kyrie went and talked to LeBron and be like, hey, man, I just want to let you know, I asked for a trade. It's nothing against you, but I want to be out of Cleveland in this armpit of a city before you're gone. And LeBron's like, dude, I am tired of what Dan Gilbert's doing with him firing the general manager. He's the dude that built the championship team. You know what? We're going to stick it to them. We're going to leak this trade, and we're going to screw the Cavaliers. It's going to be another big FU to Cleveland.
It was lovely, though. I do love the fact that when stuff happens, people message us. They're not afraid to talk about their true feelings because we don't censor anybody. It might be ridiculous, and it is. Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson for Kyrie Irving will never happen, but to entertain that was so funny that I enjoyed it thoroughly. We got literally 250, 300 messages that were like, trade Andre, trade Reggie, let's get Kyrie here. I would love Kyrie here. I would absolutely flip. I would actually go to more games, but the scenario in which Kyrie has a little bit more leverage, and you named some teams that he wanted to go to, the likes of San Antonio.
Minnesota, San Antonio.
There's no way he's coming here. The Pistons, unfortunately, it stinks. In terms of getting a big name guy, the likes of Avery Bradley, where he's the team's like number 2 option, is probably the ceiling that you can expect at this point in time.
I saw an article this morning, and it was people who had gone on to the NBA trade machine and found all like the little craziness and of how stuff could do. And I tried to work out a trade.
Yes, what did you do?
So the closest I got, it was a 3-way trade between Cleveland, Detroit, and Houston.
Oh, you did multiple teams,
and
nice.
Because all the ones I saw were usually 3-team deals. So in this deal, I had the Pistons getting Kyrie Irving from the Cavs, and then Ryan Anderson from the Rockets, and then Kevin Love and I think Tobias Harris to the Rockets, and I forget who went to the Cavs, but it didn't work out in our favor. I think we were like slightly over the salary cap of what we would be getting. But yeah, you're right. He's not coming to Detroit. It'd be cool, and it'd be cool to get rid of Reggie Jackson, but I don't know who would want to take Reggie Jackson at this point because he's a bum.
Yeah, nice. Oh, man. Always great talking to you. Always love the potential trades. It just stinks because, yeah, people are interested in the Pistons. They're interested in them playing good basketball. They're interested in putting together. People are not, I mean, the Pistons PR is trying, but they're not putting the wool over people's eyes. People know that you can't pay a max deal to Andre Drummond to have him sit with 6 minutes left in a ball game. You can't have Reggie Jackson getting hurt and then coming back and playing, and the way he played hurt the team.
That's why Chris Paul left L.A. You had DeAndre Jordan on there, who's one of their key players, who's essentially just like Drummond. You can't play him at the end of the games.
So you look at it and you want the Pistons to be successful, and you want them with all your heart to be a team that can go out there and entertain. But right now, you just got to hope that Reggie comes back stronger, Andre takes the disrespect, and stays off of Twitter, because fans were blasting him. Many people even tweeted him directly. They were like, look, can we trade you for Kyrie Irving? And Andre responded by saying, that's why you're typing from a cell phone. You're not the general manager. And he kind of, is hearing the news, and it's being broadcast, but it's up to him to turn this around and play a much better brand of basketball, because I think, for the most part, I think he's creeping up there alongside others on the Red Wings and Lions as being quite the unpopular Detroit athlete. I think he might be number 1.
I see a lot of unpopular athletes in Detroit right now.
Like who? Who was on the unpopular list real fast before we get out of here?
Oh,
Andre, Stafford,
Reggie.
Polarizing.
Stafford is
50%.
Stafford is
my number.
Polarizing. I wouldn't say that people dislike him. I think Stafford is kind of like the Brandon Inge, where people love him and hate him.
Okay.
But I think Drummond,
is he number 1? Is Drummond the guy that people don't want around the most? Drummond, Jackson.
I think you'd probably get a lot of dislike for Jimmy Howard. Even though he's probably your best option goal right now.
Okay.
Maybe Anibal Sanchez.
Okay, Anibal Sanchez.
Yeah, I'd probably put him as the caliber of player and how much money he's getting paid. He's probably one of the most disliked right now.
All right, Jason. Check out all the fine podcasts as well as Jason's each and every day, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Subscribe, listen, rate on iTunes. Definitely check out our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Amazing support. New sponsor meetings every single week. Check out those that support us. When you check through the website, it means a lot to us. And thanks to all the sponsors and supporters and those that have been reaching out. It makes this really fun, and we look forward to it each and every single week. Thanks a lot, Jason.
He's John. I'm Jason. It's the Motor City Sports Rant.
Bada boom. See ya.
Peace.
Okay, nice idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Toodaloo, motherfucker.